Hello, my name is Arthur, and in the last video we were making some fixes to our searches for quotes, single quotes, and escape sequence characters. So we added in this line, yeah, something about this is troubling me. So I want to do a little test here. I want to gprint just the word here, so that we can see what's going on. So let's save that in there. Now, I've saved something into my test document that I don't think should be able to highlight under the current script, but it does seem to highlight. So maybe we can get an idea for why that is. So that should have printed here one time. Yet this is highlighted for some reason, and I honestly don't understand how that could possibly be. That with only running through the script one time, that's managed to highlight, because that char has a dependency. It's dependent on, let's see, where is that? That's right here. It's dependent on not being highlighted as a double quote because it had the single quote color attached to it. Except at this point, it hasn't had the single color attached to it. So that one is actually a little bit of a mystery. What I'm thinking in this video it's time to do is to address the silliness of this function. Now, I've just been writing downwards and getting things working in this ridiculously large function. But yeah, the function is ridiculously large. It shouldn't have all of the different highlighting functions inside of it, because we're getting to a point where this, which at the beginning of highlighting syntax videos, I added this in saying, this is not very practical. It's not practical to check the entire page every time we release a key. And we can see that happening here. These are just hotkeys for me to increase the size of the text. And there wasn't even any actual typing occurring in the buffer, and it's run through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times just to increase the size of text. But yeah, the behavior on this one, that's a little bit unclear to me. Or, no, that's not the right one. That's the wrong one. On this one, here, that's a little unclear to me, because I would think that that would not have been able to highlight. But maybe that's just me and I'm not tracking the logic properly. Yeah, well, it is able to highlight because we took out that check here. So I guess that is, it does actually make sense, and that's just me not tracking the logic properly. So we're pretty much at a time that highlight page needs to be fixed, and these different functions getting cut down into something a little bit more realistic. Probably Probably one of the things we'll have to do is to make certain tags global, or we could do what we did previously in the other, in main, and make a bunch of functions to get, we can make a function to get specific tags as well. Now, when it comes to the ones that we need to be global, we're really just, so far, the only thing that's looking and going, oh, do you have this tag or do you have that tag, is the single and double quotes. And, well, the comments look to see if they have the quote tag, but that falls into the same category. Like, functions are checking, do I have the quote tag? And functions are checking, do I have the single quote tag? So those are the two that need to be global. So we can limit what's global in that fashion. Then this line will probably get separated some. We'll need to declare these two in the highlight page function so that they're available to the other functions, because when a page opens, it's still going to come and go highlight page. But when a key press happens, we don't want to do the whole page, so we're going to have to come up with something a little bit different for that. Hopefully using the functions that we've already written. So maybe the thing to do would be something like void single line comment. And we'll see if we need to pass that anything later. I've become curious. So before we get very far, I want to check on something. Now, inside of the H file, I put initialize page editors. And I've become curious as to whether that actually needs to be done. So we include syntax H into main so that it's able to call highlight page. But I'm not sure that we need to put functions in here that aren't going to get called by other scripts. So I'm actually curious if that's the case, because that would be an important distinction to know. So everything seems to work exactly the same. And yeah, that's something to consider in my other H files as well, where I've declared all of the functions and not just the functions that other scripts are going to be calling. Because I don't see a reason why we should include every single function into a file and make it available to other aspects of the script when they're not calling them. And I could see situations where we might want to make a script that's filled with functions that other scripts may want to call. So what we'll do here is we'll start making some function names. And start moving the functions into these different names. So we have that void now I'm not sure on our format specifiers and escape sequences. If we should bother putting those into two functions or just to put them into one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call the function special, and let's actually go have a look at that and see if that is an overlapping name. No, I used escapes and escape. So it's not an overlapping name. We have specials, but we'll just call that special for lack of me knowing another thing to call, to lump the two things as. So that would be the format specifiers and the escape sequences. So now we would have void quotation, and really I'm just trying to avoid overlapping names. What's in a name? The names are only so important here. Let's call it double quotes and single quotes. And that's really off the post with already used name, but that's okay. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of these things I was looking at also and thinking, well, I didn't really need to write it that way. One would be this, if and the else being way down here. Which isn't actually mandatory. Well, I guess in this case it is. But in some cases it isn't, especially else break and else here. Because that could just simply be put up here, and all of these things don't need to be tabbed in. But we'll just ignore that, and we'll ignore some certain things. So let's see, with the quote, we want to take this, and we'll just clear spaces, because we're basically going to hack this function apart. So we remove the tag, quote, single quote. Those are declared inside of this function, which is going to call this function. So we can take this entire function now, starting at removing the tag, and cut it out of here. So that's double quotes. We'll paste it in here. And now it's one normal function. So that is that one. Let's see, the next one in the list. Actually, this one is used a bunch of times, so maybe I should have left that. That does need to be one of the global ones. So we'll come back up here, we'll amend that. We'll separate that, and a lot of these functions are going to need the boolean, so that has to be declared in this function as well. And in many of the functions, because we use that in quite a few different places. So let's see, this one uses only check one. So this stuff here, we'll paste in check one. We don't need to bring check two with it. We'll declare specifier and highlight page, and then we'll probably have to declare it somewhere else too. Or initialize it, I should say. So these things, we can clean this up a bunch. We'll go with specials. We'll bring escapes with us as well. It's not going to need this. Okay, let's start with the multi-line comments and the single line comments. So we can cut that out. And the reason we're not going to initialize the page jitters inside of these functions will become clear later. So this is multi-line comment. We're going to need to, let's see, we use check one and check two here. So we'll put that in. And we'll also need to declare tag. So we'll put that in there. And that should be good. I think that has everything to function now. So now single line comment. We'll cut that out of here. We don't need to initialize page jitters. So we'll cut this out of there. And we'll put it into a proper function. Oops, that's the wrong one. Let's put that in the right one. That is comment, single line. We only need the one space. We'll put these things in here because we'll need them there. So that should be a functioning. Let's give a little more space here, make it more legible. So now we have the single quote. That's this lengthy function. So let's see. We'll need right up to here because it searches for these. And we'll just take the ones we don't need out. Okay, that's still right. So we'll paste that into here. We'll take out initializing the page headers. Oops, that's not the way to go about that. We'll drop that. We'll need I don't think that we need tag in this one because it has its own tag, which is declared in highlight page. So single quotes. So that leaves us with specials. Yeah, if I hadn't decided to thin the search by looking for that first, this might make sense and it being done in a different way. I'm not sure what this is about. I don't think it's necessary. So yeah, this one's a little questionable. Maybe it should be 2 functions. Maybe it's happy enough being 1 function. So we won't need to initialize page headers here. We can tuck a lot of this in so it isn't so spacious. We will need the booleans in this function. So we'll paste those in. So that gets things separated. I think those are separated well enough. And then the rest is what we do in the highlight page function. So we need current tab. We don't need to declare any tags in here because the tags that are initialized are declared globally. We don't need that. We won't need any of these white spaces. So now what we'll do is make the function calls. So it's basically going to be an initialize page headers function call, initialize page headers function call. So we'll try to put them in the same order they were in. So we did double quotes first. After double quotes, was specials. So we did the special. That's the escape sequences and format specifiers. we need to initialize the page headers. Then we did single quote. So essentially what we're doing is we're replacing all of the functions in highlight page with function calls. So it's all should make a lot of sense, and really it's probably the way it should have been written in the first place. But sometimes it's easier to look at things in a different way also. I don't think it matters which order we do these in when it comes to the comments. So we'll make the comments call. And that's a little bit repetitive on initializing page headers. But we don't want to do it in the functions because we can use the way that we initialize the headers when we try to optimize to avoid doing full page searches at all of the different occasions where we want to do a search. So that'll get more obvious. We're going to leave it where we're doing full page searches until it becomes obvious that that's not functional. Because right now it isn't extremely obvious, but when we start searching the full page for numbers, keywords, and preprocessor words, I'm pretty sure that the typing's going to slow down a whole bunch doing that search for every key press, and things will become more obvious why that's not a functional way to go about it. Okay, so it's a matter of seeing if this will compile now and if those changes worked. Okay, so what we're going to need is these functions also needed, they need the page. Let's copy that with the tab so we don't have to do that each time. So pretty much all of these, to apply a tag, it needs to know the page number. So we'll just put that into all of them. And that should fix that stream of errors. Because that's the grievance that I see first off, and I should have realized that they all need the page numbers. Just like this needs it just to declare the things. Okay, so that should be a lot closer. Double quotes. That's indicating a missing oh, there it is. Missing that. Okay, so this should be pretty close, and hopefully this is functioning. So we haven't even made a function call because no page was read, and the function call won't happen until the page is read. So yeah, that seems to be working, except we've caused a breakage here. So we'll have a look at the cause of that breakage. I have an idea what's going on. So let's just close that. So the problem is in the special, and let's change this. We're going to go special 1, and we'll copy that, paste it in here, and call it special 2. So what's going on is we can't have them both in the same function because the page headers aren't being initialized, and we have to break this off into a separate function. So we'll break this off into a separate function. Special 2. And let's name that properly. We'll come down here. We'll put in a closing bracket. This will need that uses both check 1 and check 2. We won't remove the tag because we don't want to do that on the second call. So we'll paste that in there. This should already be closed, and that should get that going properly. So let's just see if we compile. Oh, we got to rename this one. Whoops. And we'll open it up, and that should get things functioning. Well, that creates a bit of an issue. So that's okay, because where the issue is here, now that we've separated things, we've created a dependency. And we have to fix that dependency. Anyways, so let's see. So we remove the tag here. So we're removing a tag that isn't getting applied to certain characters. And it's not getting applied to certain characters. And let's just run that again so we can see the other problem. The problem is a circular dependency. To go along with that, so the tags are being removed from these, but these are added in the double quote search. Now, if we look down here, the double quote search also has a dependency on the single quote search. So it's viewing this as an open quotation mark, because when it comes through and does this search, it doesn't know what it is until it cycles through twice. So I would say that probably our best fix that will fix both problems, because there's two dependencies at play here. These depend on knowing that they're in a quotation mark. But all of these being covered, some of those are done in quotation marks, but the tag is deleted at the first call. So for special 1, it deletes the tag that was applied in double quotes. And then double quotes depends on single quotes having already run to know that that open quote is not an open quote at all. And the only way about that is to actually go through double quotes twice. So we go through single quotes, then we have to go through double quotes a second time. And I really don't see two ways about that. When we don't have any other way other than conducting an entire search, there's no way to resolve certain issues. Like certain things have to know that they're sitting inside of a quotation mark. So that started with comments. They had to know that they're sitting inside of a quote to not become a comment. So it was eventually we were going to come across a point where those dependencies became circular. So now we're getting into why doing an entire page search for every keystroke is going to play out to be not very practical. So if we look at what we get now, what we should get is everything highlighting properly, and that string, that open string, should not be seen as an open string, and the text following it should be white now. So that text is white, all of our highlighting is back, and the only way to go about that is to deal with that circular dependency, because we have things depending on each other. Now, so far that hasn't had an adverse reaction on our ability to type. In the next video, we'll come back and we'll put in a search for numbers. So we'll be able to highlight numbers, but at that point, we'll see that why the full page search has become completely impractical. So that'll be in the next video, and until then, I hope this was helpful. It was a little bit lengthy, but I hope it was helpful, and until the next video, take care.